Hey and welcome. This video is not going to have any actual video. It's 10 p.m. and I'm laying in my hammock and I've just been thinking some thoughts and wanted to share them while they're still kind of fresh and churning in my mind. I'm going to talk about some thoughts on raw meat and fruit. I get so many comments on my videos about how I should eat raw meat and raw dairy, and I know a lot of people who are like switching to more of like a carnivorous diet. I'm talking about raw meat and raw dairy, and I haven't really, looked into it very much. And if you've watched some of my old videos, I've talked about in a few of my videos how when I first went raw, I was doing raw primal for like the first 2 months, meaning I was eating raw meat and I was eating some raw cheese and stuff like that, because when I first went raw, I still didn't think that veganism was healthy, and yeah, I thought that we were omnivores and that we were meant to eat meat. And it wasn't until a couple months later that raw meat just started to be like completely unappealing to my body. I mostly ate raw meat because my mind told me that we're omnivores and it would be healthiest for me and optimal if I ate it. But after like 2 months, I would just look at meat and be like, oh, my body does not want that at all. And then a little while after that, I was thinking, okay, maybe veganism is like actually healthy. And then I watched Forks Over Knives and was completely convinced that we weren't meant to eat meat. But so anyways, the carnivore diet is a huge trend right now. And there's tons of talk about it. And I definitely have curiosity about it. Every time I think about doing it, it always goes to a place where I'm like, no, I don't think that I could actually do that and give it like a fair trial. I'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, definitely some curiosities come into my mind and some like wonder about it. First of all, I think the one curiosity I have right now is raw meat mucus forming? And everything, to my knowledge, would point to that it most likely is, but I've never actually experimented with eating only meat to see. And because, Arnold Ehret talks about, and in my own experience, basically all overtly fatty foods are mucus forming. So even fruits like avocado and even coconut are mucus forming. Nuts and seeds are mucus forming. Anything that's high fat seems to form mucus or produce mucus in our body. And so it seems hard for me to believe that meat would be, or raw meat would be the one thing that's fatty and high protein that wouldn't produce mucus. But then there's always the idea that, okay, I haven't tried it, I can't actually say that for sure. And I didn't really know about mucus forming foods back when I used to eat raw meat. I didn't really know about natural hygiene or anything like that. I wasn't keeping track of what it was doing for me, and raw meat was honestly probably a lot better for me than what I was eating before that. But this morning I woke up, and it's been raining all morning, or pretty much all day, so I've just been kind of resting in my hammock most of the day. I finally got up around 2:30 p.m. to go get something to eat, and I was thinking that maybe I would try some meat. And I had this idea that, okay, maybe I could try eating raw meat for a week and see what happens. That didn't end up happening because I got to the store and just the fruit looked really appealing, so I got a bunch of berries. And then I got over to the meat section and just instantly was okay, yeah, none of this appeals to me at all. Don't want any of this. And yeah, anytime I think about eating meat, like I would want to give it the fairest trial, and the way that I see that is like hunting for my own meat, or, I mean, that would be like the best, I think, way to do it would be to like hunt my own meat, eat it raw on the spot, warm blood, warm organs. To me, that would be like the equivalent of picking a ripe fruit fresh off the tree, like just extremely tree ripe and ready to drop. And then next best would probably be going to like a farm or the farmer's market and getting something that they had killed maybe that day. Like I have a friend that got a cow heart from the farmer's market like a week or two ago. So that would probably be like the next best option. And like I don't want to just buy store-bought meat if I was going to do something like that. Because that doesn't really give it a fair trial, and I think it's the same for fruitarianism. Most people who go raw vegan or fruitarian aren't really giving it a fair trial, and they're, you know, like, it is pretty unhealthy how we're doing it, because we're all living in kind of what I think are unnatural environments for humans, or at least not optimal. You know, like a lot of us think we're failing, or like it's detrimental to our health, but a lot of us are living in places like Michigan and Canada where there's just pretty much no ripe fruit, and we're probably also not getting a lot of sunlight, or, you know, a lot of other factors go into it. And so it's like we've never actually tried being a true frugivore where we're in the tropics and we're just eating ripe fruit. Like, we don't really know what that's like for a lot of us. And so we say that didn't work for us, so we have all these issues. And of course we're going to have issues, especially with our teeth and other things, when we're not eating super quality fruit and we're not picking them straight from like the tree. And so I imagine it's similar with animals. And then when I think about that, like the idea of killing an animal by my own hand is not appealing, and especially like then kind of ripping it apart or carving its carcass and then eating it like that isn't appealing to me. And then I think, like, what do I have that nature is giving me that would even let me do that? Like, go out and kill an animal and then rip its body apart and eat it. To me, it just doesn't seem like our bodies are designed for that. It seems like I personally would need some tools, some weaponry, something like that I would have to invent in order to succeed in hunting. And then it's like I don't really know how to make something like that. Like, it's not some innate thing that I'm born with. It's not like some instinctive thing for me to know how to create these weapons to go and kill animals. I don't know how to make a knife. Like, I might be able to make some kind of spear or something, but then how would I make that? Like, maybe with some rocks, and then I would have to carve it with maybe other rocks or something. It'd probably take me at least a week to make any sort of weapon that would be efficient for killing. And it just seems very, I don't know, like, it doesn't seem like the truth of my nature as a human being. It seems like it would take me a long time to invent something like that, to be able to successfully hunt animals. And then so, also, even if say I went on like an all meat diet, all raw, organic, like really high quality meat diet, and say it's not mucus forming, say it's like the 1 fatty protein food on the planet that somehow doesn't produce mucus in my body, I still don't think that I would stick with it, even if it didn't seem to have much side effect, because I still feel really incredible on fruit. The only thing that I have issues with on fruit is my teeth, and I think a lot of that is also that I haven't even given fruitarianism a fair trial, because I eat a lot of unripe fruit and a lot of store-bought fruit, and people are trying to tell me, oh, you can like try eating or try consuming raw milk for 2 weeks and see what happens with your teeth and know what happens with your teeth, and like as if they've had crazy cavities and decay and just like healed their teeth with raw milk. It doesn't seem like, I have a hard time believing that, or like they have any experience with that. Maybe they feel like they have stronger teeth, and it's probably true. Like, I think that raw meat and dairy is probably healthier than a lot of other things that are processed and very unnatural. So I imagine that it could feel better than, being on a diet that's processed food and even like vegan junk. I would say raw meat and dairy is most likely healthier than a lot of vegans eat. But at this point, I don't think that raw meat and dairy is going to really help my teeth. The most it would probably help them not decay more, maybe, and I don't even believe that. But to like heal it and reverse the damage that's been done, I think that fasting would be the only thing that could possibly do that. And I don't blame fruit for my teeth. I mean, I blame more like unripe fruit and all my old habits, like before going raw vegan. And also, I still just eat a lot of processed junk as well. And even through my raw vegan journey, like, usually my teeth feel really good if I'm just eating fruit. It's usually just whenever I eat nuts and seeds and other cooked foods, especially salty foods. Salt, to me, is like the worst thing. If I could give up one food forever, it would be salt. It's just so addicting, and I believe that it probably screws up our palate and our ability to taste things more than any other food. And once you start eating a lot of salt, which most people eat way more salt than they realize, then you start to lose like your sense of taste without salt. So if you eat something without salt, now it just seems like it has no taste, because your brain is so addicted to being stimulated by salt that now everything just seems tasteless without it. But also, a lot of things are pretty tasteless without salt, and like, there's things that you just wouldn't eat unless it was salted. Most things are so plain and boring and unappealing without salt, but then you just add salt and then it's just like magically sensational, and now it's like edible and palatable. But yeah, raw meat, like, when I think about killing an animal, I think, okay, like, maybe possibly I could like kill a fish or something like that, but I don't even know how I'd do that. Like, I'd have to figure out a way to catch the fish, and once I've caught the fish, like, because I'm thinking if I was naturally meant to eat meat, then I should be able to eat this fish like right after catching it somehow. I just think of like trying to dig into this fish and like probably scraping my hands up and cutting myself on the fins, like, while it's squirming around trying to, I don't know, I guess I could like throw it on the ground and stomp on it or something, but I don't know, it just seems so strange. And I think insects, that would be like the more logical thing. Like, primates eat a lot of insects, and for a long time I figured that was part of the human diet as well. But I remember a few years ago I was at the Costa Rica Fruit Festival, and we went on like this ape walk. It was really cool. We all got naked and we were just like walking on this permaculture farm, and we were just like picking fruits from the trees and eating them. And one of the invitations for that event was that, like, if we come across some insects, then we have the option of eating the insects like an ape. And so at the beginning of the walk, I was thinking, okay, yeah, I'm open to that. Like, I'll probably eat some insects. I've been curious about eating insects and see how that is for me. And then we got to this tree, and there were like some ants or termites or something on it. And the guy leading it eats some ants, and it was like, okay, you guys can try some ants if you want them. And I was just looking at them. It's like, oh no, I don't want to eat these. I'm like, that actually feels really wrong for me. And so after that moment, I just like never thought about eating insects again, and didn't care. I was like, no, I don't think that that's for me. I think I place a lot of spiritual value and, you know, my own spiritual ideas around all of this, like not wanting to intentionally harm other living things. And I'm not always perfect about that, because ideally I don't even really want to harm like plants or eat vegetation where you have to uproot it and kill it, but I still do that sometimes. And I'm not saying that, you know, that ideal is any more spiritual than anyone else's ideas about spirituality. It's really just my own personal belief and my own personal desires for my spiritual desires and what I want to cultivate as my own personal spiritual path. So I don't think that not killing is any more spiritual than killing. I just think that that's what I prefer, is to not kill. And then for some reason I just label it as spiritual, but I don't actually think it's possible to do or be anything that isn't 100% spiritual. I think everything is spirit manifesting, so to say that something isn't spiritual doesn't feel true for me. It's just kind of like, how do you want to experience and how do you want to express your spirituality while being here in physical form? And this is just how I'm choosing to do that right now, is to not want to kill things. Not want to kill things like with intention of harming it and killing it. And that could change, and the more that I seem to integrate with like a unified consciousness, or this idea that like everything is just communication with itself, the more this idea opens up of kind of everything on Earth and the universe just saying like, use me, like it's okay to use me. And so there's also this like way of looking at it where maybe an animal in physical form doesn't necessarily want to die, at least on that level of like physicality, but then you kill it and then it just realizes that, you know, it dies, goes back and kind of gets more unified or integrated. It's like, oh yeah, that was just me like agreeing to have this little experience where I experience myself killing myself, right? I experience myself as a human being killing myself as an animal, or being killed as an animal. It's like, okay, that was a fun game, and now I'll manifest as something else. And so it's not as if, you know, on the highest level, like anything's harming itself. It's just kind of like this agreement. It's like God just agreeing to do whatever the heck it wants with itself. And yeah, I think there's this realization that killing is kind of just like a fun little game that reality can play with itself sometimes, and there's nothing actually wrong with it. It's just like, is that what you want as like the expression that you are as the physical form? And as kind of like the mental form that you are. Is that what you want to create in this life? So I think that's all I've got for right now. Basically, every time I think about it, eating meat doesn't make any logical sense to me. There's still curiosity because I don't actually know what it would be like for my body to only eat raw meat for a little while. So there's like this interest in knowing what that would be like, but I haven't ever been able to bring myself to do it since going vegan at this point, and I don't really see myself doing it, but that could change. Maybe I'll experiment with like a week on raw meat at some point, but yeah, it seems kind of doubtful because I just always come to the same conclusion every time I think I might try it, which is that it just doesn't make sense to me physically or spiritually. And I'm not saying that it isn't the best, most beneficial, optimal thing for me physically or spiritually, because I don't know. Maybe I'll try it and just like it'll be like a revelation, and maybe it will be the most optimal thing. I don't know, so I'm not trying to say that any of it's bad or wrong or not ideal, but it doesn't seem to align with me right now, and I just don't feel willing to try it right now. So thanks for listening, hope you enjoyed it, talk with you in the next video.